Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by green fields and gentle hills, there lived a young girl named Clara. She was cheerful, hard-working, and loved by everyone in her village. Clara's family was poor, but they were happy. They worked together every day, helping each other and enjoying simple joys. Clara's favorite job was milking the cows. She loved the calm barn, the smell of fresh hay, and the soft, gentle sound of milk falling into her shiny pail. Every morning, Clara would wake up early. She helped her mother with household chores, fed the animals, and cleaned the barn. Then she would take a full pail of fresh milk to the village market. Clara was proud of her work. She knew that the milk she carried would help her family. It could be sold for coins that bought bread, vegetables, and other small things her family needed. But Clara was not only hard-working, she was also a dreamer. As she carried the pail of milk, she often imagined wonderful things. She dreamed of buying chickens, goats, and even a cow of her own one day. She imagined herself walking confidently through the village, admired by everyone. Her imagination was strong and exciting. However, Clara's big dreams sometimes distracted her from the simple steps she needed to take one day. Her daydreams grew too big, and something happened that would teach her an important lesson. A lesson about patience, focus, and the value of steady work. This is the story of the Milkmaid and Her Pail, a tale of dreams, mistakes, and wisdom. Chapter 1. A busy morning on the farm. The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet countryside, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and gold. Birds started to sing happily, welcoming a new day. The farm slowly woke up, and the cool morning air carried the smell of fresh grass, warm hay, and the gentle sounds of cows lowing in the distance. It was a peaceful place where simple life continued every day, and at the heart of this calm farm lived a young milkmaid named Clara. Clara was a hard-working girl with bright eyes, quick steps, and a cheerful smile that made everyone feel warm. She lived with her mother in a small wooden house beside the barn. Every morning, before most people in the village even opened their eyes, Clara would already be awake. She enjoyed the peaceful mornings and believed that starting early was the best way to have a good and successful day. As the first rays of sunlight touched the earth, Clara stretched her arms and got ready for her daily routine. She washed her face with cold water from the clay pot, tied her brown hair back with a simple ribbon, and reached for her favorite blue apron. This apron had belonged to her mother when she was young, and Clara loved wearing it. It made her feel responsible, confident, and ready to take on the day's tasks. "Time to milk the cows," she whispered to herself with a little smile. She picked up her large, clean metal pail. The pail was shiny and strong, and she always took good care of it. Without it, she could not do her job. Clara walked out of the house and headed toward the barn. Her footsteps made soft sounds on the dirt path as the morning breeze gently played with her hair. Inside the barn, the cows were already awake, waiting patiently. They recognized Clara and trusted her gentle hands. "Good morning, Bella," Clara said to her favorite cow, a calm brown cow with big, kind eyes. She stroked Bella's head softly before sitting down to begin milking. The barn was filled with warm light coming through the open window. Clara worked smoothly, humming a little tune while milk filled her pail in steady streams. The rhythm was peaceful. As she worked, her thoughts wandered. She wondered what the market would be like later in the day. She planned to sell the fresh milk and maybe buy small things that she needed. After milking all the cows, Clara looked proudly at her pail. It was full of fresh, warm, creamy milk. "This is good," she said softly. "Mother will be happy. This will sell well today." She carried the heavy pail carefully, trying not to spill even a drop. Walking slowly, she headed back toward the house. The sunlight was brighter now, and the village was beginning to wake up. Smoke rose from chimneys, roosters crowed loudly, and neighbors greeted each other as they started their morning chores. Clara placed the pail on a wooden stool outside her house. She wiped her hands and looked at the pail with satisfaction. She felt proud because the work she did every day helped her mother and herself. They did not have much money, but through hard work and honesty, they lived a simple, happy life. Her mother came outside and smiled warmly. "Good job, Clara. You've done well again." Clara's heart filled with happiness. Praise from her mother always felt like sunshine. After breakfast, Clara began preparing for the trip to the market. She washed her face again, packed a small cloth bag with bread, and checked the milk pail one more time. She wanted everything to be perfect. The day was just beginning, but Clara's energy was strong. She felt excited about the possibilities ahead. The farm behind her, the road before her, and a pail of fresh milk in her hands, everything seemed perfect and full of promise. Little did she know, this simple morning was the start of a journey that would teach her one of the most important lessons of her life. Chapter 2. The Milkmaid's Daily Routine. Clara's day was always full of simple but important tasks. Although she was young, she already understood the value of hard work. Every morning after milking the cows, she followed a routine that kept the farm running smoothly and made life easier for her mother. It was a routine she knew by heart, and she took pride in doing it well. After finishing her morning milking and preparing the pail of fresh milk for the market, Clara returned to the barn to clean up. The cows were calm and content, chewing hay as sunlight streamed through the open windows. Clara grabbed a wooden broom and swept the floor in long, even strokes. Bits of straw and dust gathered at her feet. She scooped them into a basket and placed it outside for compost. She enjoyed the quiet moments the barn gave her. Sometimes she would watch the dust sparkle in the sunlight or listen to the cows' slow, steady breathing. The barn was warm, safe, and familiar, like a second home. After sweeping, she filled the feeding troughs with fresh hay. Bella, her favorite cow, nudged her gently as if to say, "Thank you." "You're welcome, Bella," Clara said with a laugh. She patted the cow lovingly before moving on. Once the barn was clean and the animals were fed, Clara walked back toward the house. Along the way, she checked the chicken coop. Chickens clucked loudly, running around her feet in excitement. Clara opened the wooden door and stepped inside. She collected a few eggs from the nests, placing them carefully into a small basket lined with cloth. "These will be good for breakfast tomorrow," she said to herself. She loved how everyday tasks connected to simple joys: warm bread, fresh milk, golden eggs. It made her feel grateful for the life she had. Back at the house, her mother was preparing vegetables for lunch: carrots, onions, and long green beans from their small garden. Clara placed the eggs on the table and washed her hands with cold water from the clay pot. "Thank you, dear," her mother said gently. "You always help so much." Clara smiled proudly. Helping her mother made her feel useful and responsible. After eating a small meal of bread and tea, Clara moved on to the next part of her routine, packing for the market. She lifted the metal pail once more, making sure the lid was tight so the milk wouldn't spill. She wrapped a cloth around the handle to make carrying easier. In her small bag, she packed bread, water, and a few coins. She always double-checked everything before going out. She believed that being careful was part of being a good milkmaid. When she was ready, Clara stepped outside. The day had fully begun. The warm sun shone brightly, and birds flew freely across the sky. Villagers walked around doing their morning tasks. Some greeted Clara kindly. "Good morning, Clara. Off to the market again?" asked an old man carrying a basket of apples. "Yes, sir," Clara replied happily. "I hope today will be a good day for selling." "It will. You are a hard-working girl," the man said with a warm smile. Clara continued walking with her pail, feeling proud and hopeful. She followed the small path that led from her farm to the village square. The path was lined with tall trees that swayed gently in the wind. Sometimes Clara liked to imagine that the trees were whispering stories of travelers who had passed long before her time. As she walked, she thought about her routine again. Wake up early, milk the cows, clean the barn, collect the eggs, help mother, prepare for the market. It was the same every day, yet it never felt boring. The routine gave her purpose and made her feel steady, like the strong roots of a tree. Clara believed that people who worked steadily, step by step, were the ones who succeeded in life. She had heard her mother say that many times, and each morning Clara tried to follow those words. After a while, Clara reached the village square. It was already lively. Merchants set up their wooden stalls, children played near the well, and the smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. Clara placed her pail on a wooden table and opened the lid carefully. The milk looked clean, white, and perfect, just as she hoped. Many villagers trusted Clara's milk because it was always fresh. Soon, customers approached her stall. "Good milk again today?" a woman asked. "Yes, very fresh," Clara replied confidently. Clara sold the milk cup by cup, her smile never fading. She enjoyed talking with people and hearing stories of their day. By noon, the pail was almost empty. She felt satisfied and thankful. This routine, doing chores, helping her mother, selling milk, shaped her life. It made her strong, responsible, and hopeful. She didn't know it yet, but this simple routine would soon lead her into a day filled with dreams, imagination, and a lesson she would remember forever. Chapter 3. A Fresh Pail of Milk. The morning sun was now shining brightly over the fields, covering everything in a warm golden light. Clara stood beside Bella, her favorite cow, preparing to milk her once again for the day's selling. Although she had done this task hundreds of times, today felt a little different. The air was extra fresh, and the sky looked especially blue. Clara felt a spark of excitement, as if something good was waiting for her. She placed her small wooden stool beside Bella and set her shiny metal pail beneath the cow. The pail was clean and cool, reflecting the morning light like silver. Clara always made sure her pail was spotless. She believed that clean tools made good work. "All right, Bella," Clara said softly. "Let's get started." Bella mooed gently and stood still. Clara began milking with steady, practiced hands. The sound of milk hitting the metal pail made a soft rhythm. Plink, plink, plink. It was one of Clara's favorite sounds because it meant progress. It meant she was creating something valuable. As she worked, Clara hummed a tune her mother used to sing. Her thoughts drifted comfortably. She imagined the people at the market who would drink the milk, the children who would smile when they tasted something warm and creamy, and the villagers who trusted her because she always brought the freshest milk. Slowly, the pail began to fill. The white milk rose higher and higher until it reached the top. Clara stopped and looked at it proudly. "This is the freshest milk yet," she whispered with happiness. She lifted the pail gently to feel its weight. It was full and heavy, meaning it would sell well. The milk's surface was smooth and shiny like glass. Clara could almost see her reflection inside it. She smiled. Carrying a full pail required balance and patience. Clara knew this well. She always held the pail with both hands, stepping carefully and never rushing. Today she walked even more carefully because the pail was filled to the brim. As she stepped out of the barn, a cool breeze touched her face. The flowers near the fence danced lightly in the wind. Birds fluttered from tree to tree, singing cheerful songs. Clara felt peaceful and proud. She loved these simple moments. On her way back to the house, she passed by the garden. Her mother was watering the plants with a metal watering can. "Another full pail?" her mother asked, smiling. "Yes, Mama," Clara replied. "It's extra fresh today." Her mother looked at the milk and nodded with approval. "You work hard every morning. Hard work never goes unnoticed, Clara." Her mother's words filled Clara with warmth. Praise made her feel even more determined. Clara placed the pail on the wooden table outside the house. She covered it with a clean cloth to keep it safe from dust and insects. Then she sat beside it for a moment, enjoying the sight of it. A full pail always filled her heart with hope. Hope for good sales, hope for a new little purchase, hope for a better future. She imagined what she might buy with the money from selling this fresh milk. Maybe a new pair of ribbons for her hair. Maybe a small treat for her mother. Or maybe something for the animals. Clara liked thinking about possibilities. They made her smile. But imagination was not all she had. Clara also had responsibility. She needed to take the milk to the market soon. So she stood up, tied her apron tighter, and checked the pail again carefully. She wiped the rim with a clean cloth and made sure the lid was tight. Before leaving, Clara took a deep breath. The fresh air filled her lungs. The peaceful countryside surrounded her like a warm blanket. She loved her life. Even though it was simple, it was meaningful. Clara lifted the pail with both hands. It was heavy, but she was strong. She stepped onto the dirt path leading to the village. Her heart was full of excitement. She imagined selling all the milk quickly and returning home with coins in her pocket. She imagined even more, perhaps too much. But at that moment, she didn't know that her imagination would soon take her down a path she did not expect. For now, she walked proudly, carrying her fresh pail of milk, believing everything would go perfectly. Little did she know, this pail of milk, so fresh, so perfect, would lead her to a lesson she would never forget. Chapter 4. Dreaming of New Possibilities. Clara walked down the quiet path that led from her farm to the village, carrying her fresh pail of milk with both hands. The sun was higher now, warming the road, and the gentle morning breeze brushed against her cheeks. Everything felt bright and full of promise. Clara's steps were light, and her heart felt even lighter. As she walked, her imagination began to open like a flower. It always happened this way. Whenever she carried a full pail of milk, her thoughts drifted to hopeful dreams. "What should I buy today?" she whispered to herself, smiling. Clara imagined the market and all the colorful things sold there. Fresh bread, shiny ribbons, wooden toys, soft scarves, little trinkets. She didn't buy much, but imagining was free, and today her imagination was stronger than ever. She looked at the milk inside her pail. It was fresh, creamy, and full. Clara felt proud. She believed the milk would sell quickly. If I sell all of this, she thought, I will earn enough coins for something special. The idea excited her. At first, she thought of buying a new ribbon for her hair, a bright red one. She pictured herself walking through the village with the ribbon tied neatly, dancing behind her in the wind. A red ribbon would be so nice, she told herself. But then her imagination grew bigger. What if I bought new shoes? She wondered. She imagined the sound they would make, tap, tap, tap on the road. They would look beautiful with her favorite dress. Her smile widened. And maybe, she continued thinking, I could save some money to buy a little chicken. If I have a chicken, it will lay eggs. I can sell the eggs at the market and earn even more money. Clara's steps became quicker as her excitement grew. She hugged the pail closer to her chest without noticing. A chicken, then another chicken, then maybe a whole group of chickens. She laughed softly to herself. With many chickens, I can sell many eggs, and with that money, maybe I can buy a small goat. Her imagination was now racing ahead, step by step. And if the goat has baby goats, I can sell the babies. Then I will earn even more money. Clara's eyes sparkled with joy. The road stretched out before her as her dreams continued growing. With all that money, I can buy a nice dress, maybe even 2 dresses, one blue, one green. Then everyone in the village will look at me and say, Clara is the smartest milkmaid ever. She giggled at the thought. She imagined herself walking confidently through the village, her new shoes tapping, her green dress shining, her red ribbon fluttering in the wind. Then Clara imagined something even bigger. If I become rich from all this, maybe one day I can buy a cow of my own, she whispered. The thought was so exciting that she nearly stopped walking. A cow of my own, she repeated, amazed by her own imagination. She imagined leading her very own cow across the field, feeding it, brushing it, and milking it. She imagined having her own milk to sell, doubling her earnings. And maybe, Clara said dreamily, if I have 2 cows one day, I'll earn enough money to buy a little piece of land, a place for my animals, and maybe even a bigger house for Mama. Her heart filled with pride just thinking about it. She imagined her mother smiling at her saying, Clara, you did all this? You made our life better? Clara's chest lifted with confidence. She felt tall. She felt powerful. She felt like anything was possible. Her dreams were flying high now, far above the fields, far beyond the village, stretching into a future full of sunshine and success. And all these dreams started from one simple pail of milk, shiny, heavy, and full of hope. Clara didn't notice how tightly she was holding the pail now. She didn't notice her steps getting bigger. She didn't notice that her mind was so busy dreaming that her attention was drifting far, far away from the road. All she knew was that the future looked bright, brighter than she had ever imagined before. She kept walking, eyes sparkling, lost in a world of possibilities, unaware that her dreams were building up to a moment she would never forget. Chapter 5. The Girl's Big Imagination. Clara continued walking along the dusty path, her pail of milk swinging gently at her side, but her mind was no longer on the road. It was somewhere far ahead, floating among dreams, ideas, and possibilities that seemed brighter than the morning sun. Her imagination had grown so big that it felt like a storybook opening inside her head. "I'll buy a chicken, then many chickens," she whispered happily to herself, "and then a goat, and then maybe a cow of my own." The more she imagined, the faster her thoughts ran. They grew bigger, taller, and more colorful, like a tower being built out of nothing but hope. Clara's eyes shone as she imagined her future. She saw herself standing proudly in the village market, selling eggs, milk, cheese, and even butter one day. She imagined people lining up to buy from her because she was known as the smartest, hardest-working milkmaid in all the land. "Everyone will be so impressed," Clara said with a giggle. She imagined standing straight, wearing a beautiful green dress that flowed down to her ankles, paired with new shoes that made her steps sound strong and confident. She pictured the bright red ribbon in her hair, dancing with the wind as if it were alive. "Good day, Clara," the villagers would call out. She imagined herself answering, "Good day. Would you like fresh eggs or sweet milk today?" Children would run up to her stall, laughing and calling her name. Adults would admire her courage and hard work. Even travelers from faraway towns might hear about her growing farm. Clara's imagination soared higher, and maybe, she whispered, "if I get enough money, I can buy another cow, a big, strong one." She pictured herself in the fields with 2 cows by her side, then 3, then 4. She imagined rows of healthy animals, all well-fed and peaceful, each one helping her earn more and more. "And then," Clara thought aloud, "maybe I'll be able to buy a small house of my own beside our farm, a house with a garden full of flowers." She could almost smell the flowers, roses, sunflowers, morning glories climbing up a wooden fence. She imagined her mother sitting under the shade of a tree, smiling as the wind brushed through her hair. "Oh, and if I get rich enough, maybe I'll buy a little carriage," she said excitedly. She pictured herself riding through the village in a tiny carriage pulled by a gentle brown pony. Her beautiful dress swayed, her ribbon fluttered, and people turned their heads to look at her. "What a successful young lady she has become," they would say. Clara hugged her pail closer, her heart dancing. She wasn't just walking anymore, she was almost floating with excitement. Her imagination continued to paint pictures in her mind. A farm full of animals, a house filled with laughter, a market stall always busy with customers, her mother proud and happy, herself becoming strong, independent, and admired. The images were so vivid that Clara didn't even feel the weight of the pail anymore. Her footsteps grew lighter and quicker as if her dreams carried her forward. And then her imagination pushed even further. "Maybe one day," she whispered, "someone important will notice me. Maybe the mayor will say, 'This young girl has changed the whole village with her hard work.'" The idea made her laugh out loud. Clara spun lightly on her heel, enjoying her thoughts. Her dreams were brighter than the sunlight, larger than the sky, and sweeter than fresh milk. She imagined herself standing in front of a group of young children, sharing her story. "You must dream big," she would tell them, "because dreaming leads to ideas, and ideas lead to success." The children would applaud. Clara would bow proudly. Everything felt perfect in her mind. She imagined herself becoming someone who inspired others. "Me?" she whispered softly. "Clara? The girl who started with just 1 pail of milk?" She felt powerful. She felt unstoppable. But as her imagination grew bigger and bigger, something else happened. Her attention to the real world grew smaller and smaller. She didn't notice the small rock on the road. She didn't notice how she tilted the pail slightly as she walked. She didn't notice how her steps became uneven as she dreamed too deeply. All she knew was her imagination, big, bright, and unstoppable. A future full of hope danced before her eyes. But just a few steps ahead, reality waited to teach her a lesson she never expected. Chapter 6. Plans for the Market Day. Clara walked steadily along the familiar road, the pail of fresh milk swinging gently beside her. This road had taken her to the market many times, but today felt a little more exciting. Her heart was full of hope, and her imagination, still bubbling from her earlier dreams, began shaping clear plans for the market day ahead. "I must sell everything today," she whispered to herself with determination. "If I sell all the milk, I'll have enough coins for something special." She tightened her grip on the pail and continued walking, her steps strong and confident. The morning sun warmed her shoulders, and the soft crunch of pebbles under her shoes kept her company. The village was still a little far, so Clara let her thoughts wander and fill the quiet road. "What do I need to do first?" she asked herself. She loved planning things. It made her feel organized and ready. "I'll go to my usual spot, the one beside the baker's stall," she said, nodding. "Many people pass by there." She imagined the baker, Mr. Thatch, greeting her kindly. He was a friendly man with a big mustache and a bigger smile. Clara always liked standing near him because the smell of warm bread brought more customers to her milk stall. "Good morning, Clara," she imagined him saying. "And good morning to you, Mr. Thatch," she would answer politely. She pictured herself setting the pail down, opening the lid carefully, and watching customers gather around her milk always attracted attention because it was fresh, clean, and creamy. "Step right up," she said softly, rehearsing in her mind. "Fresh milk for your breakfast." She giggled. She liked pretending she was a real market vendor, a professional one who knew exactly how to speak to customers. Clara continued planning. "After I sell the milk, I'll count my coins. I should keep some for savings. Mama always says saving is important." She imagined herself holding the little cloth purse she carried, carefully dropping coins inside. "Then I can buy something small," she said happily. "Maybe a ribbon first, or maybe a tiny treat for Mama." Thinking of her mother brought a warm feeling to her chest. Clara loved surprising her with little gifts. Even a small sweet cake or a piece of fruit made her mother smile, and that smile meant everything to Clara. "And if I have a little more money left," Clara went on, "I might walk around the market and look at the animals for sale." Her imagination quickly drifted again. Chicks, baby goats, cows, but she shook her head gently. "Focus, Clara," she whispered. "Today's plans. Today first." She took a deep breath. The air smelled of warm grass and early sunlight. The peaceful morning helped her think clearly. As she walked, the path widened, and she saw the rooftops of the village ahead. Smoke curled from chimneys, and small voices echoed from children playing. The sound lifted her spirits. "Almost there," Clara told herself. She thought about her selling technique next. She knew people liked friendly vendors. "I will smile," she said. "A smile always brings customers." She practiced a cheerful smile while walking, and then she laughed at herself because she looked a bit silly smiling at the empty road. "But it helps," she said, still laughing. Then she remembered something important. I must not spill even a single drop of this milk, she said more seriously. It's too valuable. She lifted the pail slightly and checked it. Everything looked perfect. The milk inside was smooth and still. She nodded with satisfaction. Soon Clara reached the small wooden bridge that crossed a narrow stream. She stepped carefully across it, imagining how the market would be buzzing with people soon. Women buying vegetables, farmers selling grain, children running around with small wooden toys. Today will be a good day, Clara said confidently. She planned the entire flow of her morning. 1, reach the market early 2, set up her usual spot beside the baker 3, smile and greet everyone 4, sell the milk quickly 5, save most of the money 6, buy something small and useful 7, return home safely. Clara felt proud of her well-made plan. Nothing can go wrong, she murmured. The thought filled her with joy. Her future felt close, bright, and possible. She walked with confidence, the pail steady in her hands. But plans, no matter how good they are, can be fragile. Clara didn't know that her careful planning and hopeful dreams were about to collide with a moment she never expected. For now, though, she continued walking toward the market, full of hope, unaware that the lesson she was about to learn would change everything. Chapter 7. The dream turns too big. Clara continued down the path, holding her full pail of milk close to her chest. The village was not far now. She could already hear faint sounds, vendors calling out their goods, children laughing, and the distant clatter of wooden carts. But Clara wasn't listening carefully. Her mind had slipped back into her dream world once again, and this time her imagination grew far bigger than before. Her earlier dreams of chickens, goats, cows, and new dresses had filled her with excitement. But now those dreams began to expand, stretching into a future so grand that Clara almost forgot she was just a young milkmaid walking along a simple dirt road. If I become the best seller at the market, she whispered to herself, then maybe people from other towns will hear about me. She imagined travelers visiting the village just to buy her milk. She pictured them praising her. "Your milk is the finest in the whole region," they would say. Clara smiled proudly, her steps light. And then, she continued, I could buy more animals. Yes, a whole farm. Her imagination lifted her higher. What if I buy a horse? She whispered excitedly. A strong, beautiful horse, brown with a white patch. She imagined riding the horse across the fields, her ribbon flying behind her. People in the village would stop and stare. She's so successful, they would say. She must be the richest milkmaid in the land. Clara laughed softly. The idea thrilled her. And with many animals, she continued, I can hire helpers, maybe 2 or 3. She pictured hiring farmhands, showing them how to take care of her animals, and walking proudly through her growing farm as if she were the owner of a small empire. Good morning, Miss Clara, the helpers would greet her. Good morning, she would say, lifting her chin with confidence. Her imagination swelled even bigger. If I earn enough money, maybe I can build a big barn, she thought, a strong one with red paint and a tall roof, just like the barns in stories. In her mind, she saw it clearly. The barn doors wide open, sunlight pouring in, rows of hay neatly stacked, cows lined up, and chickens running happily outside. It was perfect. And next to the barn, she whispered, a beautiful farmhouse, with windows that shine like glass, a front porch with a rocking chair, and a garden full of roses and fruit trees. The picture in her head was so vivid that she could almost smell the flowers and the warm bread she imagined baking in her new kitchen. "Oh, I'll have everything," Clara said, lifting her chin proudly. Her dreams soared even higher. "And maybe one day I will become famous." She giggled, unable to stop imagining people would come from different villages just to hear her story. "Clara," they would say, "how did you become so successful?" She would smile and answer softly, "It all began with one simple pail of milk." The thought made her feel like a hero in a fairy tale, a small girl with a big dream who changed her whole life through hard work and imagination. She lifted her shoulders proudly. "Nothing can stop me," she whispered. But her imagination didn't stop there. It stretched even further, like a balloon growing too full. "And then, maybe I will be the richest girl in the whole village." She imagined people seeing her walk by, whispering with admiration. "She's amazing. She's so smart. She has everything." Clara tilted her head back in delight. The dreams made her feel powerful, unstoppable. She forgot the weight of the pail. She forgot the rough path under her feet. She forgot everything except the wonderful world inside her mind. She didn't notice that she was holding the pail at a slight angle. She didn't notice her steps growing careless. She didn't notice the uneven stones scattered across the road. Her dreams had grown so big that they began to overshadow reality. Clara imagined herself walking into town with confidence, dressed beautifully, waving to the villagers who admired her. She imagined stepping into her new farmhouse. She imagined opening her large barn. She imagined success after success. And in her mind, she gave a proud, joyful nod, a nod slightly too strong. The milk inside the pail shook, but Clara didn't notice. Her dreams had gotten too big, and soon she was about to discover the cost of dreaming without paying attention to the world around her. Chapter 8. A step, a thought, a mistake. The sun was now high in the sky, and the market road was full of people walking, talking, and carrying baskets. Some people sold fruits, others sold cloth, and many farmers brought vegetables and eggs. The milkmaid walked carefully through the crowd. She did not want anyone to bump into her. Her pail of milk was still on her head, and she held her hands near it to keep it steady. She walked slowly at first, but after a while she began to feel more confident. "I am doing great," she thought. "The milk is safe. Nothing will happen." Her imagination grew stronger. She smiled as she saw a woman selling chickens in a bamboo cage. "Yes," she whispered to herself, "soon I will have my own chickens too." As she walked, she started to think even bigger. "If my chickens lay many eggs, I can sell the eggs and buy a goat. And if I buy a goat, I can sell the goat's milk. Then maybe I can even buy a cow like father's." Her heart filled with excitement. Each new idea made her walk faster. Her steps became lighter. She started to forget about the pail of milk. She forgot that she needed to balance her head. She forgot that one wrong move could change everything. She was lost in her daydream. The road ahead became dusty and uneven. A small stone sat in the middle of the path. She did not see it. She was busy thinking about cows, markets, and big dreams. "I will be the richest girl in the village," she told herself proudly. "Everyone will look at me and say, 'There goes the smart milkmaid. She made her dreams real.'" The thought made her laugh, and as she laughed, she lifted her chin just a little too high. Her steps became bigger, almost like she was marching. The pail wobbled gently. She still did not notice. A group of children ran past her, playing and shouting. One of them bumped her lightly by accident. "Sorry," the child said, But the milkmaid didn't even hear him clearly. She was too busy imagining buying a nice dress for the village festival. The pail shook again. She placed a hand on her hip, thinking, "When I have money from my eggs and goats, I will buy the most beautiful dress. Everyone will admire me." She pictured herself wearing a bright red dress with golden lines. She imagined dancing at the festival and everyone watching her proudly. The image was so clear, so exciting, that she forgot she was walking on a rough part of the road. Her foot hit the small stone. She stumbled. Just one step was enough. The pail tilted. The milk inside began to slosh from side to side. She tried to catch the pail with her hands, but it was too late. Her balance was gone. "Oh no!" she gasped. The pail slipped from her head. It fell to the ground, and in one quick second, splash! White milk spilled everywhere. The shiny liquid spread across the dusty road. People nearby stopped and looked. The milkmaid stood still, her eyes wide, her hands frozen in the air. "My milk, my plans, everything," she whispered. She stared at the empty pail lying on its side. A small stream of milk ran slowly toward a patch of grass. Her heart dropped. All her dreams, the chickens, the eggs, the goats, the cow, the festival dress, disappeared in that one moment. The children who had bumped into her watched with sad faces. "I'm sorry," one of them said softly. But she didn't blame them. She knew it was her own mistake. She bent down and picked up the pail. It was light now, too light. The weight that once felt heavy and full was gone. She looked around, feeling embarrassed as people went back to their work. "Why did I not pay attention?" she whispered. "Why did I let my dreams carry me away?" She felt tears in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. "I must learn from this," she told herself. "I must walk carefully. I must think carefully. Dreams are good, but I must not forget the real world." Slowly, with heavy steps, she turned around. The long road home waited for her. Her pail was empty. Her heart was sad, but she walked on. Because she knew she had learned an important lesson. Chapter 9. The Fall of the Milk Pail. The milkmaid walked slowly back toward the village, holding the empty pail in her hands. A soft wind blew across the fields, making the tall grass wave gently, but she did not notice the beauty around her. Her heart was heavy, and her steps felt slow and tiring. She kept thinking about the moment the pail fell, the moment her dreams disappeared like spilled milk on the dusty road. She whispered to herself, "I should have been careful. I should not have dreamed too much." Her voice was soft, almost like she was afraid to hear her own words. As she walked, the scene replayed in her mind again and again. She remembered the stone she tripped on, the laughter she made when she imagined her new dress, the feeling of excitement as she dreamed about the chickens, goats, and cow. And finally, the loud splash, the sound that ended everything. She closed her eyes for a moment and sighed. "If only I had paid attention," she thought. "If only I had kept my mind on the road, not in the clouds." The village came into view. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Children played near the small houses. Farmers carried tools home after working in the fields. Everything looked normal, but inside her, nothing felt normal. She felt ashamed and afraid to tell her mother what had happened. "What will Mama say?" she wondered nervously. "She trusted me with the milk. She needed the money for food. How can I face her?" She held the pail closer to her chest, as if it could protect her from her own worries. When she reached the village gate, she saw an old woman sweeping the ground. The woman looked at the empty pail and shook her head gently. "Oh dear," the old woman said kindly. "You lost the milk, didn't you?" The milkmaid nodded slowly. "It happens," the woman continued. "But remember, child, dreams are good. Just don't let them make you forget what is in front of you." The milkmaid thanked her softly and walked on. Even though the words were kind, they reminded her again of her mistake. As she approached her home, her mother was outside washing vegetables in a large bowl. When she saw her daughter's worried face and the empty pail, she stood up quickly. "What happened?" her mother asked. The milkmaid looked down at the ground. I dropped the milk," she said in a small voice. "It spilled everywhere. I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't watch the road. I was thinking too much." Her mother took a deep breath. She did not shout. She did not look angry. Instead, she walked closer and gently lifted her daughter's chin. "Tell me what you were thinking about," her mother said softly. The milkmaid hesitated, then explained everything. Her dreams of buying chickens, selling eggs, getting a goat, and maybe even a cow. She talked about the beautiful red dress she imagined wearing to the village festival. Her mother listened carefully, nodding slowly. When the milkmaid finished, she expected anger, but her mother only smiled a little. "My child," she said, "your dreams are beautiful, and they can come true one day. But dreams need careful steps. You must look where you are going. You must stay focused. The future is important, but the present is important too." The milkmaid felt tears rise in her eyes. "I understand now, Mama. I won't make the same mistake again." Her mother gently took the empty pail from her hands. "Come inside," she said warmly. "We still have work to do. Losing the milk is sad, but losing hope would be even sadder." As they walked into the small house together, the milkmaid felt a little lighter. Her mistake still hurt, but her mother's words gave her comfort. She realized that even though she lost the milk, she did not lose everything. She still had her dreams, she still had her family, and she still had a chance to try again. Later that evening, as the sky turned purple with the setting sun, the milkmaid sat outside and watched the birds fly home. She thought about the lesson she had learned. "Dreams are good," she said quietly to herself, "but I must take one careful step at a time." She smiled for the first time that day. She knew she would grow wiser because of this mistake. She knew she would be more mindful tomorrow. And she knew that even though the milk had fallen, her future had not. She still had hope, and that was something no one could take from her. Chapter 10. A lesson she will never forget. The next morning, the milkmaid woke up earlier than usual. The sky was pale with the first light of day. Birds sang happily in the trees. The air smelled fresh and clean, carrying the scent of flowers and grass. Clara stretched and looked at the small wooden house around her. Everything seemed peaceful. But she remembered yesterday, the spilled milk, the lost coins, and her broken dreams. She sighed. "I won't make that mistake again," she whispered to herself. "I will work carefully and stay focused." Clara tied her brown hair into a neat braid and put on her blue apron. She felt determined. She knew that today she had a chance to start fresh. She wanted to prove to herself and her mother that she could be responsible. "Time to milk the cows," she said with a small smile. Bella and the other cows were waiting patiently in the barn. Clara greeted them gently. "Good morning, Bella. Are you ready for the day?" she asked softly. The cow mooed in reply, and Clara laughed. She remembered how careful she needed to be, how attention to small details mattered more than big dreams. Clara began milking with slow, steady hands. The milk flowed smoothly into the pail. She focused on every movement, every drop, making sure nothing would spill. This time, her imagination stayed quiet. She only thought about her work, step by step. When the pail was full, she carried it carefully back to the house. Every step was deliberate. She balanced it perfectly, checking constantly. Her heart felt lighter because she was careful, but she also felt proud. She had learned something very important. At breakfast, Clara and her mother sat together, eating warm bread and drinking tea. The milk was fresh and creamy. Her mother looked at her kindly. "I see you are more careful today, Clara," she said. "Yes, Mama," Clara replied. "I remember what happened yesterday. I won't let my dreams distract me again." Her mother smiled. "Dreams are good, my child. But every step we take in life must be steady. Small mistakes can grow if we are not careful." Clara nodded. She understood now. Dreams were important, but reality must come first. Work must be done carefully. Step by step, patience and attention would lead her to success. After breakfast, she prepared the milk pail for the market. She cleaned it carefully, wrapped the handle, and tied a cloth around it. Everything was ready. But this time, she felt a quiet confidence. She didn't rush. She didn't think too far ahead. She only thought about the present. Walking to the market, Clara felt a sense of calm. The village looked the same as yesterday, but she saw it differently. She noticed the birds, the flowers, and the children playing. She noticed the bumps and stones in the road. She stepped carefully, placing each foot down with attention. When she arrived at the market, she found her usual spot beside the baker's stall. The smell of fresh bread made her smile. She placed the pail on the table carefully and opened it. The milk was still perfect. Customers came by as usual, buying milk and smiling at her. Clara greeted them politely, enjoying their kindness. She sold the milk slowly but steadily, counting every coin with care. Her heart felt proud. She knew that today she had done everything right. After the market, Clara returned home with a few coins in her purse. She didn't rush. She walked carefully, step by step. When she reached her house, her mother smiled warmly. "Well done, Clara," she said. Clara felt happy. She had learned a lesson she would never forget. Big dreams were wonderful, but patience, focus, and careful steps were just as important. She realized that mistakes were not the end. They were a chance to learn. That evening, as the sun set behind the fields, Clara sat outside, looking at the sky. She thought about the future. She still wanted chickens, goats, and maybe a cow one day. She still wanted a beautiful dress and success in life. But now she understood the most important thing. No dream could grow without steady work. She whispered softly to herself, "I will dream, yes, but I will also work carefully, step by step." The milkmaid smiled, holding her empty pail beside her. She felt ready for tomorrow, and she knew deep in her heart that her lesson would stay with her forever. No matter how big her dreams became, she would always remember yesterday's spilled milk and the wisdom it had given her.